Hello, I'm Mina. I'm a singer in a heavy metal band and I happen to be a woman. And some people find that fact way more relevant to describe my career than other irrelevant aspects, such as that I work my ass off to write my own songs, give them the sound that I want, train my skills, and do my very best to give a solid performance. Because instead of actually mentioning the musical aspect of my art, they rather concentrate on the fact that I have a vagina and call it female fronted metal. It's not cool. This is a very short way to describe an issue that is very annoying and affects many women around, not just in metal, but punk, jazz, many other styles. And also the men who accompany us in our journey. So let's dive deep into this issue. I've been very outspoken about this topic for many years, and for a while it was like a recurrent question that I was getting on interviews. So I decided to finally make a video, as complete as I can, to address the problem that is still here. The problem: my inner rage gets on fire anytime that we are offered to play on an event promoted under the female-fronted bullshit tag. To be fair, it used to happen way more often, like a decade ago or something like that, and it's more relaxed these days, but it still happens. I got one of those emails that triggered me to make this video. I don't care if it's the biggest festival in the world, with the biggest budget for us, but a music event that discriminates under the fake shield of inclusivity and treats my gender as a coin, not giving a flying fuck about the actual music, the style, the quality, doesn't deserve my respect or my time. Some people don't get it and they will never will. And I know that being so open about it doesn't make my career any easy and contributes to the ostracism. But I don't want to be like some of the hypocritical men and women and men, both sides, that I've been having to deal with, who have been agreeing against this type of discrimination. But as soon as they get an opportunity, they get confirmed in that sort of event, those festivals, or let the labels use the term for some fetishized exposure. Heavy metal is a music style strong enough to stand on its own for over 50 years and doesn't need any other sub-labels, that doesn't have anything to do with music. Because that's what we are talking about here. It is music, which should be described based on the musical properties. Proof of the lack of real interest in music from this type of people is the absurd combination of bands that they put together, with no filter except the requirement of having boobs. And do not mistake something. I'm happy to be part of events that mix styles, as long as they celebrate music. I don't mind being on the same lineup as some death metal bands, even punk, pop, I don't care. I will do my thing. It's not about being a purist with subgenres. I am proud of the style that I'm doing and I will defend it. So don't even think about it. The problem is clear and is female-fronted, not defining any style of music. It's just cheap marketing to objectify us, while selling it as celebration. It's fake. I've said it a million times. But it should not matter if the vocalist is a man, a woman, or a hedgehog, or whatever. A very different thing is to celebrate women in music, as well as we can celebrate men, for their effort, their craft, their talent, for their music, whatever the role is in the band. But putting together women on a bill just because we can open our mouths and make sounds with music in the background, even if we are the complete and absolute opposite style, the different spectrum of anything sounding, no, that's enough for me. I love music way too much to accept this. Dedicating my life and sweating blood and crying tears for it, and so do many other women who doesn't deserve this sort of disrespect. But I like female voices. One of the most awkward excuses I've heard about this topic is the line, "Female voices are my favorite." Okay, that's a white taste. In my experience, this comment usually comes from a middle-aged man who creepily collects pictures of himself with female vocalists that he has been insistently pushing to get those pictures outside a venue, and then he posts them online under the caption of the beautiful insert name, maybe just the band. Meanwhile, her eyes are immortalized screaming, "Help me!" But let's break down the logic here. Saying I like female voices is saying like I like food. Okay, sure you do. You don't like food. But greasy pizza, baked salmon, and a cup of yogurt, I don't think anybody will put them as the same type of experience, right? With human voices, and this includes every type of human voices, there are so many aspects to set in a list to see the differences. Color, tessiture, range, technique, enunciation, tone, power, expression. It can go on and on and on and on and on. In metal in general, you will rarely see comparisons between Corpse Grinder and Dio, for obvious reasons. But if we niche down to heavy metal, which is my favorite genre, how can you put in the same pot voices like Dio, Ozzy, Tony Martin, the singers of Black Sabbath, Ian Gillan, who was also in Black Sabbath for a while? They are completely different. And some people may think, oh, this is the best, this is my favorite. That is different. That is about taste, not comparisons in terms of similarity. Iron Maiden had Paul Di'Anno, Bruce Dickinson, Blaze Bayley. And Blaze Bayley, as much as he's a fantastic singer, was so underrated because he was not able to do justice with his voice to the blues songs because of the tone they were. That doesn't mean that he cannot sing them, but they were in the wrong tone and their voices were different. I would be surprised if anybody is listening to Eric Adams and Udo and they are like, yes, same thing. But as soon as there's a woman singing in the closest thing to traditional metal, she's compared to Doro Pesch. I love Doro, but I've heard very few vocal examples of people that sound like Doro. Maybe some nuances here, some influences, some things here and there. And those that want to be more underground and more, I know it all, usually say something like, you sound like Leather Leone, or you sound like Jutta Weinhold. And, well, don't get me wrong. I love all of them. I adore them. I've learned from them. They are legends. And we may have some influences, but no, that doesn't mean that it's similarities. The comparisons go to some extreme that I've heard names such as Christina Scavia or Cyndi Lauper just because they have ovaries, compared to people that had nothing to do with them. The double standards, because while I see, yes, and I see some nonsense comparisons with male singers, they are allowed to be different, to be unique, to be incomparable, while female vocalists, they get shoved together in the same comparison boxes, pre-labeled, and sometimes it makes sense, but most of the times it doesn't. Having ovaries doesn't make you a good musician. This is probably one of the most controversial points that I'm gonna treat. There's positive discrimination, or whatever you want to call it, and it's very annoying. She's a woman, so she must like all female vocalists no matter what. No, the short answer is no. I don't even like every heavy metal band that has a woman singing, because I can't like everything in Earth, nor should you. It could be because I don't like the music. It could be because I don't like the style, the instrumentation, the vocals, the delivery, the whatever reason it is that we can apply to every fucking musical project that has ever existed and can be judged. It doesn't matter if the vocalist is a man or woman, or even if it's plain instrumental, it's a matter of taste. I love potatoes to a sick point. If you've been staying around here, you know that I love potatoes. Absolutely love potatoes. But if you present me a burnt potato that smells like a homeless ass with the excuse of, but you like potatoes, I won't eat that shit. I don't care. The same with my favorite music, which is heavy metal. Not every musician is good just because they are women. Here we are talking just trying to concentrate, trying to niche down to the female-fronted issue, because of course there's many assholes that automatically dismiss female musicians just because of that. But let's stick to the topic. Other musicians, just accessories. The amount of festivals called something like Ladies of Rock or Metal Ladies or something similar that feature bands with female singers and do not care about the real style and even way less about the quality, making all about around one person of the band and treating the rest of the members like simple accessories of that woman. Now, it's not about highlighting and celebrating women. No. If you reverse the roles, tell me how that will be seen in 2025. Tell me. Cancellation problematic, misogynistic. So why is it normal if it's the other way around? My band and many other bands with some female members, whether they are vocalists or if they play triangle, have male members as well. And those bands, niching down to the style, play heavy metal. Why would you want to label those guys as some accessory of some chick playing heavy metal? We are people. Whether we have boobs, penis, both, or none, we play fucking heavy metal. That's what is it about. The music. Naivety versus marketing. There's two big groups of people, in general, that use this type of terms and narrative. One of them is the people who actually feed from this type of marketing, and they do not care at all about the person they are promoting and even less about the music. They will use any trick on the book. Doesn't matter if it's dirty, any opportunity, tag, marketing idea to get exposure, because in their case, exposure means money, and that's what they care about. But there's another group that, while it's harming, they cannot be blamed. Ignorance. And I don't say this in an offensive way. Ignorance who believe that it's actually a good way, a positive way to highlight women and be supportive to them, who believe that it makes sense to use this type of vague categorization. And in this group, there's a good amount that are women as well. Many being musicians who are blinded by this type of marketing and think that they cannot stand on their own. When I was a teenager, I was kind of convinced by that. But I was a teenager and I was naive. I started singing around and saying, hey, I want to be a heavy metal singer. And people around the scene answered every time like Tarja from Nightwish. I was obsessively singing Iron Maiden. But I ended up believing that I had to attempt to sing pseudo opera if I wanted to be a metal singer. I wanted to sing heavy metal, and I was very clear, but I kind of convinced myself. And I tried and got fucking them, and it was fucking horrible. The first time that I actually went to see Iron Maiden, related somehow, I was 16, and I stayed at my aunt's place. She found out that I wanted to be a singer, and she was not into metal or music at all, very judgmental. I went all the way there to see Iron Maiden. She didn't like the idea of me being a singer. As I was saying, she was very judgmental, and she answered like Alaska. Alaska is a very famous singer in Spain who was an icon in the 80s and had some sort of punk bands, then some electronic, like she has been doing different things, but you know, not heavy metal. I love her. Do I sing like her? No, you can judge. I guess my aunt didn't have bad intentions on that comparison, except judging my dreams. But she just went with that thought because it was another woman and there was an easy connection. When I went to my first singing lessons, also when I was 16, I had a teacher that didn't know anything about metal. She was very supportive, but she had no fucking clue and she tried her best. So she was Googling around, and back then there was no many backing tracks or anything, so whatever she could find. And she threw me fucking Evanescence songs just because there was a woman singing. She didn't pay attention to my type of voice. And it didn't work well to learn anything. It was painful. It was a painful experience. All those examples are pure ignorance with no bad intentions, and it's important to understand the difference between them. That's why bringing awareness and explaining things is important. Now the marketing. While it's nothing new, the term female-fronted within metal started blowing more and more in the mid-2000s with precisely the rise of bands like Nightwish, Epica, Winning Temptation, and others. Some call them symphonic metal, gothic metal, and labels that are quite questionable in terms of the music, depending on the concept, and attempting to put them all together on a sack. As if they were just copy-pasted projects. And yes, there were many that were very similar, but including the derogative term corset metal, which has been jokingly applied to my band recently, because in fact I wear a corset on stage. Yeah, many of them were quite similar in the formula because they were very inspired by Nightwish as a huge influence, and some were just doing their own thing. I'm not a fan of that type of band myself, while I can appreciate the art of some of them. The problem came with the sudden success and rise of Tarja as an icon. It turned into the golden goose of the industry. So prefabricated projects started appearing like mushrooms. Labels started hiring random girls to complete lineups of abandoned bands, or just to build a band around that particular girl, just to cash out, not caring about the quality of the music or any artistic concept behind. We are not gonna discuss the term industry plan. That phenomenon, while there's many examples, we can leave it for another video and judge in another note. But after that fever, and always talking about the more visible part of metal, the mainstream, a bunch of girls went into the opposite side of the spectrum, saying, nah, we don't want to be Disney princesses, we want to be tough girls, and started growling. Basically following the example, the mass example of marketing that was Angela Gossov of Arch Enemy. They were also women singing metal, so that was female-fronted metal. All of it. Two different approaches, but who cares? In the meantime, the forgotten heavy metal singers were invisibilized. They were never gone, no. But the power of marketing made people believe that there was no other female singers in metal for a very good while, and that it was a miracle happening. It was either operatic, or delicate, or growls. Nowadays, and knowingly, some women are using this type of term, female-fronted, to victimize themselves and their career instead of focusing on their music, and they create a whole personality in terms of marketing, character, around the fact that they are women. Men within the industry, using this term as well, often try to put this niche to easily get some extra few euros with that purchase as well. It's very easy and simple to understand. There are many logical labels and ways to categorize music on its own. So this is just bullshit in disguise. What about the musicians? How funny is it that we also see musicians being highlighted just based on their gender? We can buy the excuse to some degree of I like female voices, even if we've been dismantling that before. But I dare you to grab a guitar track, blindfolded, and you are not able to see who's playing. I dare you to tell me if it's a woman or a man playing. Go ahead. The concept of all-female bands. In terms of marketing, it is insulting. If a lineup happens to get together because they trust in each other's talent, because they get along well, because any other reason that can justify that, okay, it can happen. But sadly, many of those lineups rely only on the fact that they are women as a selling point and can only be paired with other women, which creates segregation. I remember when I was younger and I was auditioning to be a guitar player for some bands, and they were like, it's okay if you're a woman, huh? We can try you, we could try you. And it's like, well, yes, you can, unless you require me to play the guitar with my cock, which I don't have because I'm a woman. I don't see why there should be a problem. On another note, bands were approaching to me to play keyboard just because I was a woman. I've seen, especially back in the day, many years ago, when my band had a woman playing guitar and it was me singing and her, my band being described as mixed band, like a sandwich. And many of those other examples that do not make any sense at all. End note, if you want to support women in heavy metal, in music in general, don't use a female-fronted label, because it doesn't exist. It does not define a musical style. I'm a woman, I'm proud of being one, I'm a musician and I play heavy metal. Don't fucking touch the label of my band because of my gender, please. Music is beyond that fucking bullshit. If you want to help women to not be an outcast in the business, start by not treating us like we are some rare species. Do you want equality? Treat us both like persons, men and women. And if you want to support us, promote our music. It is quite simple. You know, the only thing that I really care about is music and the respect for the people that are making it happen. Use your brain to think on your own.